Good evening and welcome to Speaker Club's Saturday night number 101. It feels long to say 101, right? But yet, we have had a wonderful journey to Speaker Club Saturday night 100, and here we are. Just like we began on the session 1, here we are beginning with our sessions with 101. It's back to the usual days, back to the learning, back to the fun, and everything that we are going to do for the next 100 sessions now. And let's focus on what we have for today. Lasting change. When you talk of change, it is said change is the end result of all true learning. That's a saying by Leo Buscaglia. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but yet. It is often said we all lead our lives to influence people. And all the learning that we have is a result of the impact of the influence of change, learning, whatever you want to call, of that by other person on us. It is one of our greatest desires of the human mind and human presence to have an impact on the lives surrounding you. So in that fashion, in that definition, today's session is going to be all about how can we go about creating a lasting impact, creating a lasting change. And today the focus is not about communication. The focus is about how can we bring about a change that stays for a much longer duration in anyone that you are trying to influence. Here, influence is not in a negative way, not as having the power to manipulate people. And for that reason, we are talking of change for the better, for the impact that we leave on others and how they can grow in the process. That's the focus for the session today. And having said that, each one of us, whether you are 20, 15, whatever your age is, or you're 50 or above, we all play different roles. The roles of a father, a brother or a sister, a parent, a boss, or anyone who is trying to impact or influence the people we are surrounded with. And in this role, what happens is that each one of us has a methodology in which we go about influencing people or we go about teaching someone. Here, I don't want to use the word teaching loosely because when it comes to influencing, it isn't limited to teaching alone. There are different patterns in the way we influence and the way we approach the impact that we want. One of the common patterns is teaching. So as a student, you would have gone to classrooms and sat and listened to someone who's teaching you something. While when it comes to mentoring, it's a process which has a lot to do with two-way communication. While teaching is a lot to do with authority on the subject and sharing of that knowledge, mentoring has a lot to do with building of the skill and the way you go about learning that and teaching that thing of what you're trying to accomplish. And finally is the different level or the higher level of going about influencing is coaching. When it comes to coaching, it's not about you at all. It's not about you. It's about the other person and the person's discovery about what and how they're going about their life. And for that reason, today, when I'm using the word teach, don't limit it or don't look at it just as the teaching that you've experienced. We are going to talk about different formats and the facets and the principles that govern how you can impactfully influence and bring about change in the life of people. Let me ask you the first question. Who has been one of the greatest influence in your life? And what one thing that you would share have you learned the most important lesson from that influence? I just want the name of the person and the learning that you have had from that one person quickly. Who's coming up? My rescue savior, please open up.
I think the greatest influence has been my father in my life. He has been a role model to me by way of his enthusiasm, his eagerness to learn even at this age. So that inspires me a lot, that you have to be a lifelong learner and that keeps you going. Even at this age of 90, he is interested to learn so many technicalities regarding usage of gadgets and things like that. So even if he forgets, he keeps on asking it again and again. So that enthusiasm to learn inspires me a lot.
Thank you, Uma Nataraj. Who's coming up next? Lakshmi, Ellen.
Yeah, mine also. My first is my father only. I used to see and learn him up to 8th, I can say. After
that,
8th,
what happened?
after 8th, actually, I changed my cricket coach.
Interesting.
Cricket coach up to 12th. After that, my professor up to after I joined my first company boss. At present, first 5 years I have one company. That bosses is multiple person. Presently, I completed 5 years. My CEO, I used to see how he is mentoring, how he is simple. Lot of learning I have seen. Now at present, Uma ma'am and you at present actually. So I'm learning and how it's things. Lot of things I'm take away is there. Still like this going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. I think when Uma ma'am said her father, I think that is a pretty significant figure in our life for most of us. More importantly, I'm talking of moving beyond the ones where it is a natural extension, like your parent or your mother. I would want each one of you all to stick to this one person that you want to reflect on, who has had an impact on you. And while we progress in the session, I would want you to see if you have seen the principles that govern good influence in that person. You might have witnessed or you might have observed that or not, is something that we'll ponder as we progress in the session. Dinisha. Dinisha, who brought about a lasting change in your life and one specific learning? Keep it short. You're on mute. Now I understood why you're not unmuting. Go ahead. That's okay. Go ahead.
I'll come later, sir. It takes time.
No problem.
My son is playing around.
Sri Lakshmi.
Yeah, Rahul. So in my life, I would say when I was younger, in the age of LKG, UKG, whatever I say. So I was so reticent. I never speak to anyone. I was calm, and even my teachers always talk me. Why? I mean, any question if they ask, also I not even give any answer. So it's like people always think that I'm a kind of numb. I never study well and all. That is how people's perspective. So when I was in second class, one of the new teacher joined into the school, and I'm not sure why I so connected to her. So I connected to her, and whatever she teaches, I grabbed things very well, and I started getting good marks in my class, and even I get first rank in my class. That is how I felt. I mean, that influence. It's a lasting change to my life. So that continued the first rank in my entire school career and as well as in my college career, and even after having any number of breaks also, I able to get into a good career and I reached into this state. So I feel she is the one influencing my life. I would say she's the one.
Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. That you resonate or remember so much detail about all the things that you have gone through speaks about the influence she has had on you and even up until date. One more person, if anyone would like to share their, anyone? Hi Jay, and I would request everyone to please switch on your videos if it's possible. It'll be good to have a interactive session while I see you. Okay, let's move ahead. Now that brings me to the next question. Now that you have seen the influence of someone on you, ask yourself, raise your hand if you want to influence someone. Raise your hand if you believe you want to influence the people around you and you want to bring about a change in people's life in a way that, like Sri Lakshmi or like Uma ma'am or like Ellen, who has shared different people's different impact. Sometime in the future, they think of you as that person who made that possible. Hold on to that thought. The next question. Whom would you like to influence? I'm not talking of the name or the character or the person. In what facet of your life would you like to influence or build about change in someone's life? In what facet? Because we can, okay, like it's a generic note to have lived a life that influences or inspires in some way or the other. But I'm asking you specifically, in what facet of your life would you like to influence someone? Because
Hey, hi Rahul, hi all. I truly value the challenges that I have faced and the learning side that I have earned. And with those learnings that helped me, I really wanted to pass those learnings to the people who really need it. So the major learnings that I have in my life is uh, maybe you can say like the life values, the challenges that we generally face in our day-to-day lives, how to deal with, how to think differently, and how to tackle the issues very in a different perspective. So that kind of perspective I have, and I believe that if I pass those things to others, then definitely it will be helpful for them.
interesting. Thank you, Bikash. That's an interesting influencer that you want to become and the change that you want to bring to the lives of people. Thank you for sharing that. Shakti.
Yeah, hi.
Whom would you like to influence?
Yeah, I would mainly like to influence the teenagers where it starts from 13 till the early adulthood. I'm also like in early adulthood, I'm just 21. So I would like to specifically influence teenagers because mostly I have gone through that stage. So I know how that stage is, that stage of insecurity, that stage of self-doubt, that stage of where you don't know what life will unfold or how what you're good at, your weakness, strengths. So I would like to help people or influence them just to help them with to know themselves better, to know what they're good at, to know about how they can turn their passion into their profession.
Very interesting. Interesting, Shakti. It reminds me of the times that I began my journey of a motivational speaker. I think that was a time where a lot of people told me that you are too young, you do not have gray hair, or you are not bald to actually stand up on stage and talk about life and the lessons that you have learned. But interesting to see you with this vision to bring about change from your journey for the better of the people who are of the journey that you have gone through. Dinesha. Finally,
Sir,
everyone is kicked out now.
yeah, I want to influence my son because whenever I am in my home, majority time I spend with my son. Instead of telling whatever I do from morning to evening when I was there in the home, he will be closely observing. So that whatever I do, whatever I tell, he will keep on following. Majority, I am the more influencer for him. I am going to influence him. That is the reason I will be like focusing myself. Whatever the words I say, whatever I do, I will be focusing on myself so that he will be observing and he will be doing in future.
Interesting.
That's what.
Thank you. I think that's a lesson for at least the ones who have kids, the legal ones at least. I think will be looking up to having or influencing or making an impact on their children. I think that's a wonderful point that you're focusing on to bring about change or bring about the learning to the one that you want to influence. Kiranmai. Kiranmai, is it possible for the video to be
Am I
on?
audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Yeah. I love to encourage and motivate girls or women. So which I am taking care of the thing. So yeah, because why? Because I got much inspiration through women teachers. So so our school is like only girls. So they're all teaching staff was like girls, and they gave so much information regarding the strength and women personality development and all these things. So I got much inspiration through that classes and all these motivation classes. So I am continuing same. So with my colleagues and even kids or whoever like middle drop in studies or who women employees trying to restart their career. So in the pro side, I'm just helping them to give the benefits for continuing studies or searching for job. So I love to help them to continue their next steps.
Thank you, Kiran. I think that's a wonderful idea that you have about whom you want to influence and from the lessons that you have experienced for yourself. Thank you, Kiran, for that. Srilakshmi, is it okay if I come back to you later? As let's progress, and we will be taking in inputs from everyone as we progress in the session. So that makes me continue on how do we influence, how do you make an impact on the lives of the people whosoever you're trying to bring about a change for, whom you want to teach, whom you want to improve, whom you want to see growing. How do we go about bringing about that change? So this program has been designed with a lot of stories and insights that I have personally experienced from a lot of my mentors. Like Ellen was mentioning, or Uma ma'am was mentioning, that each one of you all have had beautiful mentors who have curated or helped you reach where you are in life. And so have I. And I've seen the benefit of good mentoring or good coaching or good parenting, good teaching, whatever you want to call. I've seen the benefit of doing it right. The question is not that the intent isn't there. Everyone has an intent of helping people, influencing people, making an impact in teaching people. But the question is, I've seen a lot of disasters happening with the good intent, but the wrong practice, following the wrong principles, which have resulted in not just that one moment where you're teaching something, but you are creating a handicap in the way you are approaching that change, in the way you're trying to bring about that change. And for that very reason, the process through which you go about bringing change will last a longer term. There will be changes. There will be a lot of instances you could be remembering right now where you saw the change right there. But when you saw, once you moved back, once you took a step back, you saw that change not finding its footing. You're seeing that change not lasting beyond 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or beyond even just your presence. That is where we are talking about how we can focus on the process through which you are bringing about that change so that it lasts well beyond you. The entire session today will be, I'll be sharing 6 underlying principles which become the fundamental for you to create the lasting change in people, for you to have an influence which goes well beyond just that moment when you're there, or you are in a position of authority which brings that change. So what I want you all to do is reflect, while we are discussing on these 6 principles, reflect on 2 perspectives. One, as what you are doing as an influencer, as a teacher who wants to see change in someone. And the second one is, how have you experienced as someone being influenced or as a learner? Once you look at both these dimensions, you realize what has worked and what has not worked. Because the fundamental is, you need to understand what will result in the impact or the change to last, not just about that one moment where it's authority or just that one moment where the change is coming in. So look at both the dimensions while we're discussing on all these principles. Look at your lessons and how, if you have changed, was this the reason? And if you have not changed, was this the factor which led to me going back to where I was and not learning what was taught to me? Everyone clear on this? Wonderful. So let's get going now with the 6 principles that we talk about. Bring a change which lasts well beyond your presence. The first one being, focus on why. Whenever you are influencing people, always remember, do not look at everyone with the same lens. When you talk of interacting with people, when you talk about influencing people, remember each individual has a different reason why they do things the way they do things. So as an example, when we saw last week, when we were talking about why you come here, why do you come to Speak Up Club? Akanksha, just one word.
The insights.
Insights. Dinesha, why do you come to Speak Up Club?
Learnings.
Learning.
Make it downtime to uptime.
Downtime to, so re-energizing. I can see the energy going away now. Because
different perspectives.
So why I'm asking this question is, each one of y'all are coming here for a different reason. And so the way you will be influenced will differ based on what is happening. I can't be having all the inspiration series. I can't be having only pep up talks, or I can't be having only fun. What each session does is to target specifically the objectives of the session. And when they are served, you learn and you come back every time. So the question is, when you are teaching a class of 20 in front of you, or you are influencing your team, which is there as a manager, as a boss, if you have a 20-member team, the important question that you need to ask is, when you're trying to influence or bring about change or teach some of your people, the question you need to ask is, are you putting them all in the same bucket? Which is not the reality. So get deeper. Every person's influence, I'm not saying you can do it one-on-one for everyone, but get deeper to understand why this learning will help someone, why this influence will change their life. We are constantly focusing on the influence, the idea and the change. We are not focusing on why will someone change. The first premise to having a deeper impact and deeper change is to know why will that person do it. So if you look at a lot of these shops where you go for buying something, or you go to shop somewhere, you look at how the tonality and the wording and the focus of the salesman changes when it's a bachelor going, when it's a married man with a kid going, when it's just a girl going. Look at how the pitch changes, because they start focusing on the why aspect of the receiver. To give you an example, when I went to buy a bike, which was 320cc, which was a fast-paced bike, when I went, the salesman was talking about pickup, speed, 0 to 60 kilometers in how many seconds. While when I went to buy the same bike with my wife and a kid in the hand, the tonality of the salesman changed from all these aspects which I just shared to the brakes, disc brakes, safety, the power it has. So look at how the influence is changing based on the why for different people. Don't just focus on the target that he had, as an example, to sell the bike. Changed from, to get the same result, the approach changed with a why. Now ask yourself, with your team or with your students, what are you doing to have the impact for the change? Talk the language of the one that you want to change. Understand why will they do it. So if you're teaching someone who's looking for a job, constantly talk of the benefit of what this learning will do in getting that job. If you're talking to a student, talk to him with this idea where you're talking of the different opportunities or the career possibilities open up because he learned this one skill. In your parenting, don't look at telling him this has to be done. I've seen this a lot of people where, as a parent, this has to be done. That's it. When this is the approach, there's a far likelihood that the response won't come. the approach will have to come through how the kid or whoso you're talking to benefits from building this learning or changing this pattern, and the result that will follow through as an effect of this change. When that sync is there, you will realize the deeper impact which is possible, and it will last. Now look at yourself as a learner of the things that you learned and the things that you didn't learn. You'd realize the didn't learn part of it happened because it was just focused on the activity or the change. It wasn't focused on your why. Because had it been about your why, you would be driven to build about that change. Any thoughts anyone would like to share over here? I'm happy to listen. Any ideas, any thoughts, any stories that you have just recollected from this idea? I'm waiting. Ellen, go ahead.
Yeah, actually that similar thing I gone through actually in my life. What I used to do, why I am doing. Actually this whatever I joining like that gym and everything I like to do. Same thing I had done in my life. Actually, when I joined my company, what is next? Why I am learning? Actually, how I can go that range. First, for example, 7K is there. My friend joined 35K. I know I'm going to get there, but what I should do? Like that, I did, and I did a lot of homework or something like that after my office hours. I reached. Now I'm what I'm doing. Whenever my team is there, right? I used to tell them. Actually, they all struggling. I used to tell them this is why you have to do this one. Instead of actually you have to do this one, I will tell you are now one position. For example, electrician, you should go supervisor. So what you have to do? Next to supervisor to executive. What you have to do? So if you want, or else next last 10 years you are here, like this only electrical position. Next also you will be here, like same thing only. So you have to go, you have to work these things. So like that, I teaching them. 2 to 3 people already that level they went. They are happy for because of me. I'm also happy too. Reason I struggled, I'm informed them. What is it? Not shortcut. What you have to do hard work instead of that one not shortcut like this. I did that. So whenever you are explaining, I'm feeling okay. I'm did something exactly what you told.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ellen. I think the entire idea is to reiterate what is working in the things that you're doing and what maybe iffy or the approach could be changed or needs to be changed for you to have a deeper impact. Not that you're not having an impact, but the point is with the following 5 principles, you'll realize sometimes that you're doing it with the right intent, but it is creating long-term trouble for the thing that you're doing also. Because you wanted to say something?
Yeah, in a very crisp way, if I can say, rather than focusing, most of us actually focus on what to change. But if we change our focus to why part, then automatically we will be understanding what and how very easily, and we will be getting enough motivation and inspiration, whatever is required. We will be single focused and move automatically, auto driven. So this is very powerful thing. Why?
Thank you, Bikash. I think both Ellen and Bikash reiterate this idea that do not focus on the change. We are hell-bent on nailing it, that this has to happen. But as humans, we are all driven with different motives. And for that to be that motive to be activated for each one of us, we will need to play and plug different ideas based on the receiver. And once that is in place, I think it falls, the ball starts to trickle down. So thank you, Ellen and Bikash, for adding that perspective. So the question is, you need to ask, Sri Lakshmi, you wanted to share something? Quick.
Yeah, so actually it's influencing to my son. So since childhood, I interested to get him study well. So he's a kind of guy wanted to do playing as well as studying is something a kind of mix. So it's like I keep on pushing him to get into the studies. So for him, it's like rather than his interest, I'm pushing him for studies. So that is one thing we have to think while influencing. So whether the person is what he is interested in, rather than we push something on them.
Very rightly said. I think as parent, we have our desires to see and the way it has an impact on kids. And the intent is right. We just have to make sure the approach fits in and gets in the process so that you leave a lasting change. Akanksha, quick.
Good evening, everyone. So here's a small story, how I influenced my sister. So this was about her coming to my school. It was when she was much younger and she had to join a new school, but she did not want to change school. The way my mom and dad spoke to her, she got scared of coming to the school. The way I pitched the school, she started nodding yes, and finally she is in my school.
Interesting. Thank you. Shakti, quick, so that we'll move on to the next point. Go ahead.
Like I have my friends calling me and asking me like, I know that I can do something or I want to do something, but we are not able to figure out what to do. So what I generally suggest is to start something. That's all. Like how I have gone the level by level is like to start something. When you start something, you automatically progress with what you do. You get ideas, you develop thoughts, you develop how that works. So the thing is to just start with something.
Interesting. Completely agree, Shakti, on this perspective about getting it going. I've always told this, it's more important to get it going than to look for the end picture or being overwhelmed with inaction. So wonderful idea there. So in this idea of focusing on the why, the questions that you need to start asking is not about what is to be done, not about the process, not about what. The questions that you need to start asking is about how will this change, if it has to happen, make a difference? How will this impact my bigger story? How will this move closer to my goal? Because when we see a change, whatever be it, however small it is, when we see the change as a part of the bigger picture, there's a far higher likelihood for you to drive yourself to accomplish that. And not just looking at that one aspect of change, which is only looked at in isolation. So that's about the why. The next idea is about self-directing. Each one of us wants to be the captain of our ship. We do not want to be told what is to be done. And for that reason, one of the biggest putting off factor when it comes to bringing that change is when someone is told you have to do this. We are all, as humans, want to have a choice in the things that we're doing and we deciding what we are doing. Because as innate human tendency, we do not like to be directed by someone except for ourselves. We'll far be better off with this idea of failing because I did it by myself than being blamed or blaming or using that as an excuse that you said me to do this. So the learning here is about whenever you're bringing about change or want to influence a change, don't talk about the action which is required to be done. Talk about the choices which are there and let the receiver, the listener, ponder over the impact of the different choices and choose based on their preferences. Choose based on their thought process. There could be here in this point, there could be a little bit of a debate when it comes to children. It need not apply directly to children, but still, as they progress in age, we have to move step back in the decisions that we're taking from them. For the change to last, it has to be their choice, their decision, their actions based on their why. More often than not, when we want to influence, we tell people. And that's the biggest put off. Vikas, over to you.
This is very important thing, Rahul. So I'll tell you a few of my observations, and I know most of us also have faced similar things. So we all have some problems in our life, right? And we have seen n number of solutions in books, or someone doing something or something. Some solutions will be there always. Some awesome codes will be there, but how many of them actually we are able to implement? Not many. And the major reason is this: unless until the solution is coming from within us, then it is very difficult for us to own that solution and like a kind of implement that till the end. So the learning here is always try to dig deep, either by self introspection or by a coach who can ask powerful questions to dig to the problem that we are facing, and then the solution should come from ourselves only, within. And the solution that comes from within, the choices, he might give some clues, the coach might give some clues, but the end solution has to come from within. And when it comes from within, then definitely we own that, and we like it is our creation, right? And we definitely there is a very large or we say like there is a good chance that we will implement that till the success.
Interesting. Thank you, Vikash. I think that adds a different perspective. I won't say right or wrong, but a different perspective with regard to how we are talking about we as humans try to influence each other. And so here for today's session, the focus is on how are we influencing. If we were to talk about just about self-instruction, the coach is helping, obviously you mentioned that, but if you're talking about how are we influencing this, my focus is about what questions are you asking, what situation are you leaving the receiver with? Are you leaving them with one and only one option? Or are you leaving them with ideas, like Vikash mentioned, leaving them with ideas to ponder over the impact of different choices that we could make? Because that is a role which is required by the influencer. That is a role, because as a coach or as a mentor or the teacher, the idea is to let the other person, to get them thinking, rather than kind of telling them that this is the way and this is what you have to do. Because in that case, what happens is, for now, you're giving them a wonderful direction based on your wisdom. You're making them do things which is good for them, but you're also making them handicapped. You're making them handicapped for the future situations when you are not around. The power of a mentor or a coach is to get the protege, to get them thinking for themselves. With the choices that you're giving, they're able to think about something. You know what is the answer. How much ever you know, please, please, please resist yourself from offering that answer. Because in that case, you will be completely limiting the ability of the person to learn. You're giving them an answer. I want a chocolate, take this. That's not how influence will last. It will be helpful, no denying the fact. It will be helpful for that moment, but it won't teach the lesson which is required for them to change. Akanksha, go ahead.
So I just wanted to add that how Vikas said there are like a million solutions available there, but the one you choose is usually the one you find the easiest, the one works the best for you. For example, even if you're solving mathematics, you write the solution which sounds the easiest to you. So when influencing someone too, if you choose the easiest paths for them, it gets easier for them. And also there are more likely that you'll influence the person. You have to think from the other's perspective and give them the best choice that they could possibly take.
I beg to differ there, Akanksha. When you as an individual, and that is where influence will play its power. If you're leaving someone to make their own choices, they'll make the easiest way out, like you mentioned. But the power of coaching or the mentoring that you're talking of, the influence, is to leave them inspired to make the toughest choice, which will give them the greatest growth. Just leaving will derail their story. Question is, are you motivating them or showing the way to them where the pros and cons of every choice, the toughest choice, the benefits of the future, the weakest choice, the losses of the enjoyment of the present is all visible to them, and they are choosing then. Because when you present, the way you present that story is what makes the influencer powerful. You're not directing.
Exactly.
You're not
No.
making the choice.
When you show the choices to be easy, that's when the choice will be made. So you have to think from the other's perspective. That's what I'm saying. Like you've spoken before, the best choice for them and which they are most likely to choose, so that they choose that one.
I like that. I like that. You're trying to manipulate in the hardest choice being visible as the easy one or the better one for you, and making the person decide for themselves. Wonderful idea there, Bikash and Akanksha. Thank you for sharing that. So the question is, you need to leave the listener with questions like anything that you have experienced in the past which was similar to this. What choice in the past helped you in succeeding? Can we brainstorm on some ideas which will help you achieve your goal? You know what has to be done, but you're leaving them with a thought process, a thought trial for them to work around so that they'll build their own decisions. And that process will motivate them to stick along this journey of bringing that change, because they themselves have thought about it. If you were there for a few sessions before, we had a conversation with Uma and Madhu sir. The entire conversation, if you revisit that, you will see how the entire process was driven with not directing someone, but with opening up the possibilities and the choices that you're making as a result of that. That brings me to the next idea. Each one of us have a lifetime of an experience. So whether you're 15 like Akanksha, or over 50 like Uma ma'am, or over 60 like Shubhadra ma'am, or just about 35 like me. For me to be influenced, I have to resonate with what you're saying. And that resonation happens when I connect with my story and my experience and my backing. While every time you're influencing or you want a change to happen, you do not have to look at it in isolation. You have to look at the premise or the story which is running in the listener's mind. Maths is tough. What's the story that is running behind maths is tough? Relationships are pain. Love is beautiful. Marriage sucks. Parenting is such a torture. My team never supports me. My team never stands for me. For each of these statements, with whatever you want to influence, love is beautiful. Marriage works if you work on it. If that is the change that you want to bring about, that is the influence that you want to bring about. Remember, it has to be connected at a deeper story that someone is having. And the change has to happen on that learning which someone has taken. Why do I feel marriage is painful? Why do I feel that parenting is such a torture? Everyone has their reason for whatever they believe in. The question is, how are you understanding that reason and disconnecting the learning that they have had? So the important thing is, first step is understanding their reason to why they are thinking or believing in a certain way. And so talk stories. Talk about stories. Listen to stories and find the button. You see that twist, where that twist has come into the learning of someone. To influence, focus on that twist. All women are like that only. All marriages are painful. Show them a beautiful marriage. Show them the beauty despite the pain. Show them the beauty of parenting despite the sleepless nights. Talk about the moments that make it beautiful, make it worth parenting experience. Look at how you are not targeting what you are thinking. You are targeting where the twist has to happen in someone's story for them to come to what you are wanting them to think. So remember, when you're influencing, when you're trying to influence, don't look at it as your story. Look at it as every other individual comes with a lifetime of an experience, and you want to see where what learning happened, and as a result, how can you go about changing or twisting that story. That is how you bring about influence. You not only listen to their stories, you share alternative ideas where the twist can happen for them, where they can start trusting the logic that you are giving. So if you want to leave an influence, remember, you have to be an active listener. You have to listen with empathy, with compassion about what the other person has to say. And once you look and listen deeper, you will find that moment where the learning has to change. That is where you have to play the game to bring that change. But for that, you have to empathize with the story. Whatever be the learning, it is their learning, it is their story, it is their experience. That has to change with this premise, and that moment is what you have to catch. So as a process of this entire understanding their lifetime and experience, this is what you have to do. Ask questions, ask open-ended questions, because coaching is tough, right?
Coaching is tough. No, based on what actually?
Uma ma'am, the online teaching is not fun, right?
But I'm enjoying it nowadays.
Interesting. Like Dinesha, is it really tough to manage the kids?
No.
Now, when I ask these questions, look at the answers for these. Yes or a no. When your questions are directed with a premise, your questions will be yes or no questions. But when your premise is about exploring the stories, understanding the stories, letting people speak their experiences, your questions will be different.
Open-ended.
Gosh, what makes coaching so much fun? Uma ma'am, how's your experience been with COVID and the students that you have got during this time? Dinesha, do you remember that moment when you had that fun, last time you had fun with your kid in that playground? The questions change the answers. That is where ask open-ended questions to unlock the power of this experience that someone else has. When you ask a yes or no question, you're limiting, and more importantly, you're closing and shutting down the door. Because yes, no, chapter close. So if you wish to influence, remember, for you to unlock the stories and the experience that someone has, to know why someone is doing what they're doing, ask open-ended questions. That's how you will be able to start unlocking and find the story which he or she is telling to himself or herself. The next thing, who all want money? Who all want peace? You can't get both. Come on, you have to raise your hand only for one. Whatever it is, whatever your choice is, each one of us are driven differently. And for that reason, the fourth idea that I'm sharing is about motivation. Each one of us have an intrinsic drive that pushes us to do something, and also have an extrinsic drive which can motivate us to do something, to influence, understand what drives the other person, to influence, to bring about a change, to kickstart. I'm not saying that will stay forever, but for it to last longer, understand what drives an individual intrinsically. For some, it could be peace. For some, it could be time with friends. For some, it could be money or the lavishness that money can bring. Whatever be it, there's no right or wrong there. So whatever be it, find what drives an individual and focus, target that. And once you have got the intrinsic drive, many a times, there will always be slowdown in the journey. There will always be these circles. Whatever your drive be, there will always be this also. For that low moment, despite having an intrinsic drive, focus on the extrinsic drive. The rewards that you get, the paychecks that you get, the appreciation that you get. Whatever forms work with an extrinsic drive, use that as a reward system for continuing the change that is coming along. So what works, what has worked in your story as a learner in the past where your intrinsic drive worked? Would anyone want to share any story? Subbu, welcome. I hope you're not feeling disconnected from the start of the session because you're not there.
Yeah, Rahul.
So what has worked, what has led a change in you because of your intrinsic drive being targeted? Any specific instance where you have changed because you had a drive to bring about that change?
It's a kind of burning desire. I came from the remote place, kind of village. So while I'm doing the post-graduation itself, I got a placement opportunity in the diploma itself. But I have an internal dream and it's a kind of burning desire to achieve something. I mean to say, some good position in the life. So that desire makes me to go forward.
Very interesting. Thank you, Subbu, for that. That's an interesting drive that you have with what keeps you going on. Anyone else would like to share? And I'm sorry, like as always, it's already 10 and I'm still not over. I'm sorry, requesting an extension of 15 minutes for us to have this wonderful discussion continuing. And let's see how I can learn as we move forward in these sessions to target delivering on time. Anyone else would like to share? Dinesha? Oh, okay, no issues. Yes, Bikash, go ahead. Quick.
I think I could not get the point very clearly. Can you please repeat?
The focus is what has worked for you, for the change to happen for you, because the intrinsic drive was targeted. As an example, if my intrinsic drive is the satisfaction that I get from the work that I do, delivering excellence, delivering a great meeting experience, like as an example in Speaker Club, delivering a good experience to all the members with learnings, fun, whatever be the objective of that session, getting that satisfaction is the prime driver for me. So Speak Up Club as an example, even if I'm not prepared by a Friday night, this drive which I have to bring about a change or make an impact in the session drives me to prepare for the session. So that has worked as an intrinsic drive for me to continue, and that's primarily one of the reasons why we are at 101. Otherwise, 10, 12, tired, good night, bye-bye. So look at how you are focusing on what drives the other person whom you're trying to influence and showing the benefit of change resulting in that drive. Shakti, go ahead.
Yeah, so my drive, which I found out, was to get on stage. And with stage, it's about magic. So, and I get paid. I don't do shows for free. And that's why that drive which I have to get on stage, I just wait for my next stage. Like yesterday, I finished one show. I'm just trying to get on stage again. So that is my drive. And I am very much committed when it comes to when I accept a show, whether it is far, whether it is whether I have to get an auto, whether I have to get on metro, whether I have to carry luggage. I don't care about how I have to do it, but I don't care about what I don't care about anything, but I just care about finishing that show, getting on there, whether I am feeling good, whether I am feeling bad, whether I'm not feeling at all, whether I am depressed, I don't care, but I just don't miss that.
Wonderful, Shakti. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And that talks about what drives you. Now the question is, if someone wants to influence Shakti with the principles that you have seen and the work ethic that he follows, look at how you can bring about a change with this principle that he follows. Get him to commit. And this principle that he just shared will lead you to bring that change in reality. He's a person who's 100%er. Once committed, main apni baat bhi nahi sunta types. That's how he is from what he has shared right now. So this is what you have to do with individuals whom you're trying to influence. Look at finding their nerve of what drives them. Could be peace, could be commitment, could be an image, self-image, could be money, whatever it is. Find that and target that to bring about the change or the target that you have into reality. Thank you, Shakti, for that. Wonderful. Lakshmi, go ahead. Ellen, you're on mute. You're on mute again. I'm sorry. I was also unmuting you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I will get some happiness, satisfaction, and happiness. Again, that commitment, right? Actually, that then appreciation. I used to get a lot of appreciation. I'll feel that kick whenever we're getting, right. That's the reason I will not see if I'm working also 48 hours also I'll work or something also. I will happiness. I will give what the peace and everything, right? Money, apart from money, automatically will come for me. So for me, actually, that peace and happiness. If I'm going something I work done, I'm crashing there. Some issue is there. Just I'm seeing, for example, I done huge garden. I'll see peace like anything. So what I work I done, right? What how I struggled, day night. Once I'm seeing that happiness because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. I think that's a wonderful pointer. Now, the reason why I'm asking this question or we're talking about motivation is because it is something which drives. It can be motivation or it can be inspiration, which is deep rooted. The idea when we're talking about influencing is to find the pulse of the other person, of what can you offer or do that will motivate them to continue that change. For me, as an example, right now I said commitment is something which is non-negotiable. With whatever I've taken up, I've had days where when I could not deliver on what I said, rarely, but when I had, I was down and broken completely. Because that is what I set for myself as a benchmark. So that is what drives me. My image that I am a no-nonsense person and will be there. Like Shakti mentioned, I will be there if I've committed it once, is what drives me. So I make sure I commit myself. Once that is done, there's no looking back. The change will happen. The drive will come what may. Today, I did not prepare for this program until 6 p.m. I had the idea. What is it? What we want to do? But at 6 p.m. when I sat, I knew what I had to do, and we got going with that. With regard to the framework, with the program that we're doing, that's how we are. Once I know, like I've always mentioned, a week, my heart could skip a beat, but a week will never skip a Saturday night. That is how it is, and I will stand up and work on it. And that's one reason why we have not had a break for a single Saturday, not a technical glitch for whatever reason. We have not had a break because of that very reason. Unless we always have a specific unexpected situation. So look at how, for yourself, if you're wanting to influence yourself, find that drive that you have and connect whatever you're doing to that drive and see how the change will last longer. And when it comes to your team, as a teacher, as a boss, as a parent, look at what is driving that individual. Look at how we do it with kids most often. Chocolate, clean the house, chocolate. It's driving them in a smaller example. But each one of us as adults have this one factor which drives us. Moving to what questions we need to ask to understand what motivates people. One question can be, what value do you see as your highest priority? The answer to that will tell you what is it that that person respects or looks forward to the most. Or you can also find out if the person is intrinsically driven or extrinsically by asking, how will you hold accountable? How will you hold yourself accountable to this change? That you want to learn this, you want to change, you are saying all these things, but how will you stay true to this commitment of yourself? When the answer is, I have a friend, or I have my spouse, whom I'm giving the authority to keep pushing me, to keep checking on me. You see why people have their gym or walking or health buddies is because the footing comes in where the other person is also making you do things. It's driving you. And there'll be some people who will say, I know why this is important for me. I see why this is required for me to move ahead in life. The focus will be me, mine, and for that reason, the drive has to be understood, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic, whatever is dominating, you can leverage on that to bring about that change. So even if as an individual you want to influence yourself, target yourself. I will reward myself with a movie night, with a trip, or going anywhere, or just spending a day with free. If I bring this change, if I learn this, if I do this, what's your style is what you need to understand for yourself. And when it's about influencing others, understand what's it for others. That brings me to the last point, and possibly one of the most least understood or less appreciated point, because this is where one of the biggest flaw happen, where the change agents become the source for the change to be hindering for the long term. We as teachers, parents, boss, whatever role that you play, we always think we need to have that power over the person who's receiving it or who's being influenced. And for that reason, we think by telling them what is to be done or how it is to be done, we are creating dependencies. One of the biggest challenge in good influencing is to realize you have to step back and become invisible or absent for that change to realize, and the real change to impact. It's not your presence, it's not your advice, it's not your thinking which is the influence. It is how you leave the listener's mind. That is where the power is. And that can come only and only if you are leaving the listener with a world to build of their own, with a world to solve their problems, with a world to think for themselves. How many times has someone asked you an advice, you have said the answer? When you tell the answer, you are handicapping the person who's listening to it. We as humans, we always have this, tell me the answer, please. Tell me. You want quick shots, but that is a sure shot recipe for a disaster and building dependencies. You see a lot of kids, even after they are whatever the age, 20, 25, 30, not out of just respect. Respect is a different aspect and different dimension that we'll be discussing, but merely because of this fact that I cannot decide, Dad, this car or this car. Not because you're respecting them. That's a good choice when you're asking for choices, but because you are not able to commit, because you feel if I commit, it'll be my blame if something goes wrong. And that is where you've created a dependency. That parent has created a dependency for the child as a backup factor. but for you to influence and that long-lasting independent individual that you want to create with the mindset that you're talking of comes from leaving the person vulnerable. We as influencers want everything to be perfect, everything to be done in a way that we feel is right, but that creates dependencies. That will make the child, the employee, the parent, the student whoso you're influencing to always look back. What should I do? And not deciding for themselves. They'll always be handicapped because of the way you have taught them. Shakti, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have an example for what you said.
Go ahead.
I experienced it. Like my cousin brother is he was studying his chartered accountancy course, and he's now a qualified CA. And how I was very confused with what to do with my future. So he was just telling me the answer was money. Like once you complete your CA, it's just money. Once you complete your CS, it's just money. So I actually got influenced by that, and I started my CS course. And my only motivation factor was money. And I started with foundation course, and it was like not so easy. Like I found that like I got that pressure, and later I cleared the foundation with the All India rank. But after that foundation, when it came to executive, I was like, the pressure was like so high. And then I got that experience that you must not actually listen to anyone just like that, but you have to think if you can do it, if you are able to do it. And I also got to know that even if you get lakhs of amounts, even if every month you get credited amount, the only change you can see in life is the increased bank account, but nothing else.
Thank you, Shakti. I think that's you do make a case for standing up on that stage and influencing the people below you. Proud to see that kind of a thought process that you're sharing and the way you're sharing it. Wonderful to witness that. So here I would like to share the way in which you can create independency in the person that you're listening. As a child, if I were to think of my mother, she was a wonderful mentor in the way when she started to teach me ABCs. Mind you, she's a 6th class failed student. When she started to teach me ABCs and she went about teaching me how to go about writing and all that stuff, there came a time when I started to write. And that's when I asked her a question. Mama, I can write now. What should I write? She said, I don't know. You tell me. As time progressed, when I met my retired army officer, was a PT teacher in my school, when I was captaining my cricket team, and I was looking about the strategies which have to be used to go about winning the match, I asked him, what should I do or how should I go about? He shared stories about the way he used to work in army and how the different strategies that were helpful during his times in different tasks that he was doing. He shared all those wonderful stories. But then I asked him, sir, please tell me, what do I do now? You see, most of us do that. He said, I don't know. You tell me. You all witnessed Speaker Club Saturday Night number 50, wherein you saw my mentor, someone whom I've always admired, Durga Mohan, coming in, sharing the stage with us and sharing her wisdom. When I began my journey as a public speaker, she was the one I looked up to. She taught me how to stand on that stage, how to carry yourself, the voice modulation, the stage presence, and things like make a good public speaker. When I asked her, when I was working on a specific presentation or a specific idea, I asked her, how do I go about this? You told me do this, do that, but how do I go about this? She said, I don't know. You tell me. Share the ideas, share the lessons, share the strategies, express all that you know as an influencer. But remember, there's a path that someone has to take. They can't be having a staircase or a shortcut as a lift to where you are, to what you have learned. You have learned all the things that you have based on the mistakes that you have made, the lessons that you have learned. So the question is, are you going to teach or tell someone what you have learned and ask them to do just that? Or are you going to teach them the process through which they can learn and become lifelong learners? On this idea of building independent thinking, I've always told the joy of knowing, the joy of discovering the answer is far, far, far higher than someone telling you the answer. How many times have you gone to unknown places and discovered something, found something, lost in the way, and made mistakes, had a painful experience, and yet at the end of it, that was one hell of a journey, one hell of a learning, one hell of a change. Instead of someone telling you, take this Google Maps, reach here. You would have taken the help of maps, I agree. But the idea is the entire process through which you learn has to be gone through for the influence to have a lasting impact, and for the influence not to be about you, but about the learning that someone is going to have. So while you're focusing on teaching someone, influencing someone, remember, you have to become omnipresent. You have to completely vaporize from that, and that is where you leave a mark by telling someone that you did it. Today, every time I tell Durga ma'am about how much influence she has had on me, every time she has a single thing: Rahul, I did nothing. And I know what she has done. She has done nothing. That's what is to be said. But I know what she has taught me. She has taught me the ways. Today, even after 20 years of meeting her, I met her in 2003. That's the first time I met Durga Mohan. And today, after 19 years of that, meeting and learning as a student from her for 3 years, if I still feel the impact that she has had on me even today, you can imagine the power and the way, the process through which she taught me. She didn't make me a victim to every time go back to her. She taught me how to go about learning for myself. And that's the biggest learning that I've had. So ask yourself, when you're wanting to influence the world, are you bothered about the reciprocation or the title that you're going to get, the power that you're going to get as a result of changing or being that influencer? Or are you bothered about the change which is going to happen? The second one, although less of a limelight, but is far, far more powerful in the world that you leave behind, in the influence that you have had. So remember, as an influencer, to make a lasting change, you have to forget yourself and make sure the change that you're trying to bring about is being self-driven and self-directed and led by the person whom you're influencing. That is where they get the power to become independent of even you. That's the power that you can actually leave behind with a good lasting change in whatever facet that you're talking of. As a parent, you might not be with your child for after 20 years. As a boss today, Lakshminarayan still remembers that coach or that boss who was in the first job, not because he can call him at any point in time, but because of the lessons that he learned from him. Uma ma'am every time talks about her father, is not that she's learning today from her father, but what the father taught her and how he taught her. You will always have that gratitude, but the point is, are you focusing on the change and the impact that you're trying to deliver? Focus on that. That's a beautiful journey. So that's about lasting change. And I would only say, with regard to a lot of people that I've seen who have left a legacy behind, the legacy that you leave behind with regard to the power that you have to change or make an impact and leave the world better is with 3 steps. First, you speak or you show You speak or you show in whatever things that you're doing. You speak or you show what is to be done. The second is to just have your presence and witness the show or the speaking being done by the other people, so that you can navigate them to the right direction, get them doing it in the right way. Your presence is what makes a difference. After you have shown the way to people, your presence and how you are seeing the process being driven is the second part. And finally is where you, despite your absence from that environment, leave a footprint there, which inspires change, which influences people and brings about that continual process of that setup or the change that you wanted to bring, the learning that you wanted to bring. And that is how you leave a legacy despite your absence. I'm open for any thoughts, any questions from your end right now. We'll keep it up for the next 5 minutes and then have an important announcement to make, and then we'll close it. Anyone with regard to whatever thoughts you had with regard to whom you want to influence, I hope you all have found a few ideas, few answers to what you're doing and how you can do it better from today's session. Any ideas, any thoughts? Feel free to share, please. Was it too high a dose?
Yeah, all that I can say is the session is really wonderful, but yeah, little bit high dose, maybe little descriptive, and with some examples. If you would have gone, then it would be even more impactful and easy for implementation. So maybe a second part of this session is required. This is a really wonderful session and really valuable session. I would really love to be part of the second part of it, if it can be possible.
Thank you, Vikas. Anyone else? Sri Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah, so slightly overdose for me, I agree. So one thing about the process you told, so it reminded me about, so I do invest about stock market influencers. So I follow some genuine influencers. What they say is, focus more on the process. So the thing is, start picking quality stocks by yourself. They don't give stock recommendations in they show how how to analyze a sector or how to analyze a particular stock. So in that way, I kind of resonated with what you told in that aspect.
Wonderful, Sri Krishna. I think that's another world where you are influenced. So when you talk of like Sri Krishna was mentioning, the example where they're not talking about some actions, they're talking about the process through which you go about those actions, and that is where you create independency. So Sri Krishna, maybe over time, he gets to that state where it's not about listening to what recommendation someone is giving. Because if you're listening to recommendation, you're listening for tips or you're waiting for tips, I think you are handicapped, because every time there's no tip, there's no you.
And recommendations don't work.
Indeed. If it is being recommended, I completely understand. There will surely be a premise to why it is being recommended. I completely understand that. Thank you, Sri Krishna. Subbu.
Nothing, Rahul. This was very nice and very good takeaway.
Thank you. Let's see.
Yeah, it was a very good session. I got a lot of takeaway perceptions or this one. And yesterday I actually performed a trick to Mr. Chetan Ram, who is a very good trainer and coach here. And at last he said, I asked him a takeaway for youth. So he said that you must never ever believe 100% of what you hear, and you must only believe 50% of what you see. Because whatever you hear or see, and when you make judgments, you have the greatest possibility of being that as it may be a bad judgment. Yeah.
Thank you. I think interesting takeaway, Shakti. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else would like to share anything before we come to the close? Dinesha.
Sir, as you mentioned, it is a high dosage. The subject itself says lasting change. To bring the lasting change, it is not easy. I think we have to repeat. We have to go back and watch the same video once you upload. And I request you to put that 6 point in the group, sir. It is easy to recall that 6
Sure.
point.
If someone has noted them down, Uma ma'am, I know She has a habit of writing them down. If you can share, else I'll share it. Should not be a problem. Anyways, the video will also come through. Let's see. I'll share it by that time. Thank you, Dinesha, for that. Anyone else before we get to the close of the session? Jay, I think he's coming for the second day, and I think it could be a shocker for him with the kind of thing that has happened. Last week, तो सब अच्छा अच्छा हंस रहे थे सब लोग. ये क्या हो गया आज? Suddenly इतना dose कैसे पड़ गया आज? Jay, go ahead.
No, I'm just figuring out what I had
happened?
multiple what just happened and multiple thoughts that you've given to me in instances that I'm thinking about all of them now.
Good. I know this because it's a limited time frame that we go through. We do share the recording, so hopefully, if you have any further deeper takeaways, feel free to go through the recording when it's shared. And it's always I've had these times where I've attended sessions like this, and the flow of thought which happens, especially if you're a deep person who keeps introspecting and have a lot of thoughts. I think this is a kind of a place where by the time you're finished one idea, thinking about one idea, you're thinking what next or how to do about it, the next bullet is coming in. So I know it becomes, because of its time crunch, it becomes challenging a bit. But like it's Dinesha mentioned, it's a heavy dose, and I think lasting changes require that to begin with. Mohit, go ahead.
Yeah, Rahul, actually I have one example of my own self. So I had actually worked with a couple of bosses. So in one case, when I had to quote a price to my customer, so I quoted him, for example, 100 rupees. So again, if I want to give him further discount, I have to call back to my boss, again ask him the price, again give the price, again call my boss, ask him the price, again give the price. So this way, every time I used to face a problem, I used to keep calling my boss. So there is this another boss who I had worked with. So he made me think like, okay, this is the price we can offer. What do you think at what price customer will buy? What do you think what price competition is quoting? So this way, I did not go and keep asking him. I just like internalized, like what is the price that looking at? Is it 100? Is it 95? And based on that, now I do not like with that boss, I did not call him a lot of times. So this was the lasting change actually he had created.
Wonderful. Another interesting case where we're talking about how the interdependency was shifted from the mentor or the coach to the receiver. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Mohit. Anyone else would like to share before we close for the session? Ellen.
Yeah, actually what I did, actually move itself, right? For me also, I got some thought. Actually, I used to observe. Actually, what is, for example, I'm executive range next to manager range means what and all manager doing. I'll keep on observe. I will act accordingly. I will not show them. Just I will think I'm manager. Okay, what and all doing this situation, what they are doing. So like that I used to do. But past 5 years I did the negotiation, everything I used to do a lot. 80 rupees means 65 at last we can give, I know. So 80 I will start, 75, 70, it's very difficult. I need to take boss approval. A lot of things I will show around something. Then at last 65 I will close. My boss also actually 60 he is closing means I will go 65. He is also happy. I'm also happy. I'm doing a lot of things. So I observe for this. I'm not immediately I done. Past 5 years, I seen what and all they're doing, multiple people. Now I am playing around. So we need to observe continuously. So we can get it done whatever we want.
Interesting. I think, Ellen, that's how we all learn. Now, like I mentioned at the start of the session, don't just focus on the influence that you want to have on the world or the people. For you to have a deeper influence, the first and foremost thing is that you need to be a learner first. And once that is in place, I feel everything else takes care of itself. Like everyone has mentioned, leading by example. You have to be the example of what change can bring, how change is possible for someone to believe in that story. I think that's where you have to stand as an example before someone believes that you can influence them. That's the premise behind, or the most important part, that you have to be a learner first for you to be influencing. So with that, I think we come to an end. And before we end, now that we're done with 100 sessions, there was an interesting announcement that I wanted to share. We are beginning with another series called as Living Life in a Circle, wherein you have seen through these 100 sessions, whatever part you have attended, however, the learnings that you have had, we will be working on 3 dimensions, which is The three dimensions are about communication, about career, and about life. So these are the dimensions or the pillars that we'll be working in this program called as the Inner Circle. And with the simple flow that you see over here in Speak Up Club is largely driven by me. But like I said, this is about mentoring and teaching. But the Living Life Inner Circle is about coaching, wherein we are launching this program where the idea is to help individuals who are looking forward to up their life, up their communication game, up their career movement, and look at what are the missing pieces in the puzzle. So therein it becomes less about what I am sharing and more about unlocking what you are seeing in your story. And we as a group, once that community builds, we as a group help each other, not just on one day of a week. There will be assignments and activities which will be happening throughout the week. So 3 days a week, we will be sharing activities which will be going deeper into your own story. And there'll be 1 day of the week where you will be coming up we will be meeting. So that day is still to be finalized. This program is launching on 15th. So next week we share with the concrete details. Through the next week, whenever it is, we'll be sharing about how we are going about deeper. The important thing is, and the process through which we go about this entire learning and transformation for yourself is with 3 steps. One is gamified learning, wherein with every activity, everything that we are going to do about different facets, we are going to have a lot of ideas through which you can go about learning that and not just learning it. The process through which you go and learn and explore is going to be a little different from what we have been doing until now. The second thing is about deeper reflections. Like we had one of the conversations with Uma ma'am or Madhu when you saw in session 97 or 96. We will be having deeper conversations which will unlock the challenges that you are individually facing from the reflections that you have had. The activity in itself will have a lot of that. And the third part is where we are looking at 3-step approach to learning and transforming. Thinking, doing, and reviewing. The 3-step approach which will be followed in all these sessions will be this format where we are going to target the knowledge or the thinking part which is required for this transformation to happen. The second part is having an accountability towards the doing part, where this unit that we are talking of, this community that we're talking of, becomes the driving force behind you sharing with them that I will do this and this is what I'll be going about. And the group accountability comes in, and we then go about reviewing whether you were able to accomplish or why you were not able to accomplish, and chalk out strategies in which you can accomplish whatever you have thought out on different facets. So you will see a lot of the programs that we have done over the past 100 sessions. We have done programs on all kinds. So they are broadly categorized into these 3 categories of communication. The next one is about career, which is focused on career skills and development in the professional way. And the third one is about life in itself. So talking about in life, it will be sets of different things that we have discussed about habits, relationships, passion, and different things of how we are looking at life and how we can up the quality of life that we are experiencing and doing. So that is the plan as of now, to work on this community that we are developing. But this will be a paid service. So that's the thing that we will be launching alongside Speak Up Club. This continues as is. We have had a lot of thought about how do we go about Speak Up Club, the future of Speak Up Club, because we have been doing it for free. And I've had immense pleasure from all the sessions that have happened and immense learning. And this is a promise from my end that we will continue with the Speak Up Club format as is. The only thing is, as we progress in time, could be, again, depending on the workload and how we are working and getting deeper with that other community, we could move from a weekly meeting to twice a meeting in a month. But that's a future possibility, not now. As of now, Speak Up Club continues as is. And the new community which you're talking of, Living Life Inner Circle, works on a deeper level with individuals rather than generic. It comes with accountability because you're also paying a price. You are accountable for getting the value out of it. And the entire journey being scheduled in a way where we are focusing on one element and getting deeper on that, rather than a lot of sessions that we have had. Right now, as an example, this session that we have had about living lasting change. You could think of a few things, but we are not getting deeper at your individual level. In the Inner Circle, what we'll be doing is we'll be going about deeper on specifics of individuals We'll be having a path and the process through which you will be going through your own transformation. And we, as me, will be leading the change and seeing how we are going deeper in the learning process. That's where transformation will happen. Sessions like the Speak Up Club are always good, but they leave a lot of things open for you to explore. And there's no accountability. So when I asked you at the 100th session, what changes happened? It was largely about the thinking and the good feeling part of it. Like Bikash mentioned, the idea is not about the knowledge that you have gained. The idea is about the transformation in results that you're seeing in your life as a result of this knowledge. Otherwise, these are good fun sessions. Good. I'm okay with those people also who are coming for fun and networking. Good time on a Saturday night. I'm happy with this family. No denying that fact. But I've seen immense potential in some of them, in most of them, if they work deeper with regard to their journey and how they wish to scale it up. That's a choice that individuals make, and I leave that to you. And no hard feelings if someone is signing up or not signing up or anything. More than happy to meet you all, like always, on a Saturday night and spread smiles and add value over here like I've been doing. So look forward to your support in that journey. Right now, the plan is the financials are still under discussion. The broad tentative figure that we have is for a 3-month period, 3-month program. So wherein every week there'll be 3 activities or something which will be required to be done, and it will be in sync with what we are doing on a Saturday night. So as an example, today we're talking about lasting change. The next 3 days, 6 days, alternate day, we will be sharing activities in which the learning from this session can get deeper and can bring about a change in your life. That is the purpose. Not just adding to the knowledge you are getting anyways over here, but how to go about the practical change, building that community. And each of us, whoso is a part of that community, has a cross-learning opportunity from each other. The accountability, the team which works at a deeper level has its own opportunity in that community that we're developing. So that's the thing. As of now, the broad figure that we have for a 3-month period is 15,000. As an individual, the coaching that I do on a one-on-one, this is a group coaching concept that we're talking of. On an individual basis, when I do a one-on-one coaching, I charge 25,000 for a 6 sitting which happens in a 1-month period. But this is not group coaching. This is not individual coaching, one-on-one coaching. But yes, there will be obviously the benefits of being a part of the community where we get to discuss a lot more deeper. And there will be one session which will be live every week based on the review or the process that you have learned as a part of the activities that we're sharing. There will be a review and there'll be a debrief of all the activities, and we will be sharing and getting a lot deeper with the learnings that you have had. That's where the change will be possible. And it creates, over the period of 3 to 6 months, it creates a repository of your own, where you began and where are you, will be a process for you to evaluate for yourself. And that can't happen unless you do it for yourself and do it with a genuine intent that you want to learn over here. So that's the update about the future of how we are getting deeper. No denying of or no change in Speak Up Club and the family that we have built. If you wish to get deeper, get in touch with me. I'll share the details. In the next 2 to 3 days, we'll be finalizing the concrete plan of how we are going. And the next Saturday, which is 14th, we will be beginning with this program from 15th of May. That's the plan as of now. 3-month period. The reason is to get a good commitment rather than having a monthly subscription and payment thing. We are looking at a 3-month period for that very reason, nothing else. So that's about the Living Life Inner Circle program, which is going to be launched on 15th. Next week, it will be concrete and we'll be getting on with the action part of it by 15th. That's the plan as of now. And with that, I think we come to an end for today's session. Let me close the usual way, and then we can surely stick back and you can ask me questions about the program or anything that you have about want to talk about. So with that, we come to an end for lasting change with the usual way. Saturday nights have never been this beautiful for the last 101 Saturday nights. It's been an honor to be sharing our perspectives, listening to your perspectives, and gaining new perspectives. Thank you for the love that you keep coming back every Saturday and adding life to our life and to every member of this community. Thank you. See you next Saturday, 9 p.m. Good night, everyone.